dollars go into 99 out of our 100 counties. I have to figure out which one doesn't get anything, but there must be something out there for some reason. And the DoD dollars come straight into 83 counties. So that shows you the breadth and depth of our impact on the military. Next slide, please. As you know, closing in on 800,000 veterans, that's about close to 8% of the state population. If you just did the adult population, which obviously veterans would be, it probably moves up to about 9, almost 10% of the state's population. So you think about, you walk down the street, where else in the country you have about 1 out of 10 people you pass is a veteran. That's a remarkable stat to me. And you know that everything goes with that. So you got every one of those veterans are either employed, employable, they have certain skills, they're great hires. As they transition, 8,000 a year come out of the military. And then 83,000 military retirees reside here. Guess what that means? That means money coming into the state by way of income for pensions and otherwise. And then 250,000 veterans that are less than 50. And you think about, these are the people the businesses and industry wants to hire here. Skilled labor force, usually in really good shape, very disciplined, quick learners. I know I'm preaching to the choir on this, but that's why we have partnered with NC for Hire and other groups. And one of our focuses is keeping transitioning warriors here in North Carolina because of the job skills that we need. And also we're working with the education and colleges to keep them here, provide educational opportunities for them to transition straightly into our workforce and bring businesses here to that these guys can work at. Next slide, Marie, thanks. There's our purpose: sustain and enhance our military posture while pursuing opportunities to expand missions and the economic impact on North Carolina. It's real simple. All you do is promote the value of the military, support entities at all levels in order to sustain, enhance, and protect our military installations and missions. You'll see a BRAC shield component of this. All of our installations, so we haven't been through a BRAC for a while. We generally, because of Lejeune and BRAG being such giant posts, do well in BRAC situations. But we got Seymour Johnson, we got Cherry Point, and we got those that are a little bit more isolated and smaller that we really need to work with to make sure that we remain on DoD's hot list of good folks and kind of anti-BRAC our folks, because we can't afford to lose any of these installations. And the communities certainly can't, and then North Carolina can't. Marie, next. Here's the, you have to have a high-speed chart that shows everything, but as you know, state agencies, it's kind of a group effort between the governor, the General Assembly. The Military Affairs Commission is essentially a composite group that's put together with, by the governor appoints, the Senate appoints, and the House appoints. And then ex officio members are those that are from the communities and military installations around the state. And there at the bottom, you'll see the main installations: 2nd MEF, MARSOC, FORSCOM, USARC, 18th Airborne Corps. You think about BRAG's got, last I checked, 52 general officers. I mean, that's a lot of commands and a lot of folks in the area that we want to keep here. And the same with Elizabeth City. And Seymour's got the K-135 tanker and, of course, the Strike Eagles. So it's always a good thing to move forward. Next. Here's what we do. We serve as a clearinghouse. We directly assist installations. We coordinate and essentially do reconnaissance with the commanders and the communities and find out what their needs are and what their issues, and then set priorities to try to give them state level assistance and support. We coordinate among the state agencies and the General Assembly and the governor and provide feedback on that. And we lead the BRAC preparation I mentioned before, propose initiatives in the legislative arena and essentially economic development initiatives that feed fuel the forces to keep them functioning. Next. Here's our big pillars: installation, emission, sustainability, economic development, quality of life, which is which I'm the chair of. Dave's the head of economic development committee, and but the quality of life I think is an important one. Legislative and state agency coordination. Those pillars help us set up, and we have committees on each of those to fit those 4 committees, and we work on those in a subcommittee role quarterly. Then we roll it into executive steering group, consolidate effort, and then have the full commission meeting. We invite, it's obviously public, all of these are public, open to the public, and we have feedback systems, and then invite people to lecture and speak on various topics, subject matters, experts that we also bring to the well. Next. I'll run through them real quick, so I don't spend too much time, but installation, emission, sustainability. I talked about encroachment. That's this Sentinel landscapes, about keeping our installations and training areas intact and available. That's the viability and utilization portion. Community installation resilience. That means we try to get a broad spectrum development, so they're not just one-sided and everybody's trying to rent or sell a car right outside a post. We have all kinds of businesses that we want to have available, and including health and other medical services, social services as well. Infrastructure and services. We're also looking at a joint type state federal programs, and we certainly lobby for money in DC for those projects and try to get DoD dollars down here, particularly for infrastructure and resiliency issues. We also work with non-government agencies like the USO of North Carolina and other great veteran service organizations and military service folks on resiliency and transitioning warrior, wounded warrior, all of those. We try to work closely with in order to provide North Carolina, again, as military friendly and a place people want to stay. Next. Those is just the implementation. I've been a little bit talking about it. We coordinate with Department of Commerce on that. Again, we're trying to get businesses in and have the right type of businesses to both hire and work with our transitioning warriors and with the installations as they sit. We get feedback and a feedback loop through the Commanders Council, the commanders, garrison commanders and major commanders throughout the state meet before our meeting and have a similar type of agenda, trying to glean what their priorities are and then pass them on to us so that we can assist in supporting and commenting and working with them on that. We also do on the Reserve Component Council. Everything meets quarterly and we get feedback systems that way. We advocate new missions for the federal delegation up there and use our lobbying power that way. Some of our dollars go to our lobbying in DC for the North Carolina military. Next. The second prong is the economic development that Dave heads. As Dave Hayden's been involved in the military and defense industry for quite a while. The strategic goal is to increase the viability and impact, defense industry growth, workforce development, and then the higher education partnership expansion. That's on both cyber research, and we're trying to get as much as we can down in this area. Next. This is how Dave's crew is working on it. They do the industry study, cluster analysis. These are the things that we're updating as to putting these facts out before businesses. So it's a pretty good recruiting tool to North Carolina. Workforce development, that's the career focused hiring events. We're, NC for Me and others, other transition services, working hard right now. One of the goals is North Carolina state tax exemption for military retirees. We hear from the retirees, and one of the things that when they get out and you transition and they're looking for, well, where can I go that my hard-earned pension for retirees is not taxed? About 30 other states have figured it out. We haven't, but we're in the process of pushing bills through the General Assembly, and we're hopeful that we can get some traction this time around. That's a big deal for us.
I had a quick question. At
Yeah, sure.
one time there was, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask, and I'll defer that question back to that after you get finished with your brief. But that was something I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, and this is a real focus of the commission right now. And Dave Hayden is specifically spearheading it. And we've got sponsors in the General Assembly, and it's being crafted. And it's not without some pushback and how the breadth, state employees want the same type of thing. So we're trying to get that refocused and get that through. And it comes up every year for the last 20 years. I think we've got some good traction this year, and Dave can jump on that.
If you give me 30 seconds, Robert.
Yeah, go, Dave.
I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
The big problem, I'll just say that right now, both the state Senate and the state House are going to introduce matching bills to grant an exemption for state taxation of retired pay, initially for military retirees, and then if certain thresholds are met in resources and income for the state, then they'll grant it for state and federal retirees that are not military. But we're long overdue for giving retired military members a tax exemption. I'm part of the old group that were grandfathered in.
Right.
That case, everybody who came on, and I heard you say 86, and I know
Right.
it was everybody after 84 got toasted by that.
Exactly.
30 years of Marine Corps service, you didn't get to take advantage of it. In fact, they'll probably pass it this year, but they have to reach a threshold before they can grant it for military retirees. But I expect, our economy is going to come booming back once we get, everybody inoculated. And I expect within a year after that, you should, the rest of your retirement, get your retired pay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Right.
Again, working on workforce development, economic tech. We lost one of the commands to Austin, Texas. That's the type of stuff that we don't want to do again. That's why we're updating all our efforts in the cluster study so that we can actually make our pitch with as much power as we can and leverage. Next, Marie. Quality of life, that's kind of my love child. And I say child because military children are a huge part of our family, and families are part of our military. One of our priorities is K-12 education. This is a huge thing with the frozen transportation issues right now, that no one's PCSing or changing because of remain in place with COVID. That's become, we think, a real focus for mental health issues and other issues, remote registration and online stuff. So we're looking at that. Adequate housing is always there. Spouse-dependent service opportunities, challenges, resiliency. We're not quite run as many people through the war grinder. So resiliency is hopefully not as big an issue as it's been in the last decade, but it's a big issue in transitioning support. Next, Marie. And here's how we do it. We're now recognizing schools that have gone above and beyond the call on the checklist to recognize military families and military children in K through 12. We're passing the types of things that can get scholarships and making sure that the training that's done on active duty equates to educational in our colleges and community colleges in North Carolina, equates to credit. We're working with that and with NGOs and working on those issues of quality of life. There's always a robust discussion anytime you've got kids involved in school, as you know, and the quality of life tackles those. Next. And this is our kind of the bread and butter is also our legislative and state agency coordination. There are members of the Senate and the House, as well as executive branch, that are on the commission. Those are so they bring a ready ear to coordinate legislative activity, and so we're heavily involved in that, in working with the state and also with the feds on preservation, the Guard, partnerships, state and federal funding focus in particular. Next. And again, that's how we implement it. We're doing educational changes for military connected children, doing state income tax relief. Dave just talked about other defense initiatives. Next. And then we have STRATCOM, which is always strategic communications and advocacy. We're doing that to get the word out that you can't do any of those pillars without a strong advocacy and communications link to those that are shareholders and stakeholders in the military in North Carolina. So that's a bread and butter tool in our kit bag. Next. And again, that's how we do it. We'll do next. Here's the system. We get input, identify the problems from commanders council, and from anyone. The veterans give us some great ideas, whatever. We get them from a lot of sources. We run it through our committees. We pop it before the executive steering group, the ESG, put it before the commission on quarterly meetings. And then we do both a annual report and feedback we provide as it comes into the governor, into the General Assembly with recommendations. Next. BRAC, I won't talk any more about that. We've allocated, the state allocates $1 million a year for us to, it's called the Military Presence Stabilization Fund. We use those funds to help support grants to various, both lobbying in Washington to make sure our installations are at the fore of everyone's thought up there. But also we have community grants and things that help us develop the surrounding installations, not a holistic approach to these, because that's what we think the BRAC people are looking for. How much does a community support and how does it fit in with our installations? And that's a huge, huge deal. So that's one thing. Next, Marie. And about finished up. Here's how these funds are done. We provide essentially $250,000 of various things. They apply. We put it together, a review team. They make recommendations, and then the commission grants certain ones. For example, a study on transitioning warriors. What keeps them in North Carolina? What would keep them in North Carolina? Why are they leaving? Those are the types of things that we're trying to get positive feedback and put our arms around so that we can address them properly. Private initiatives, that's base use by community and community base use by in the community. So we're building potentially facilities that we can go back and forth. We're trying to open installations to the extent we can, consistent with COVID's been a challenge, but consistent with security and other measures, trying to immerse the installations with the community. And we think that's a win-win scenario. Next. So there's a summary. And I know it's right at 6:05 or 6:03. We're the advisors of the governor, the General Assembly, and the state agencies to promote and protect the military mission in North Carolina. We understand that mission. We want everything. We want nothing. Let me put it this way. We want nothing in the state to hinder the military mission and readiness of our forces. And if we do that, that means we're military friendly. And that's, we represent those folks and the communities outside of them to try to make sure and streamline everything we can streamline, cut the tape if we can cut the tape. And that's kind of our goal, is be the eyes, ears, and mouth for our military who are often handicapped because they're busy and they're serving us in uniform. So we need to help them out in any way we can. So that's in a nutshell what the North Carolina Military Affairs Commission does. And I thanks, if you have any questions, let me know. Robert, that was a great question, by the way. You're right on top of it.
Any other questions?
Can anybody hear me here?
Yep.
Barely, Roger.
Okay, I had a question early in the presentation, and I thank you very much for your work on getting it ready. I'm wondering about the elected officials, the state officials who are veterans. I think it'd be something nice to know, so we know who may be friendly to the efforts of the various committees and of course of this committee also.
That's a great point. And in fact, the current chairman of the commission is Greer Martin, who serves as a Democrat in the House. And between he and we've got a good sprinkling, Senator Brown, Representative Cleveland, all serve on our commission. So they've got their finger on the pulse. We know who the veterans are, and there's quite a few in the system. So they're kind of our guys to go to when we try to get stuff done. But it is a great point, finding out who's a veteran. I don't know, there used to be the little handbook that's got everyone on there. And if you go in there, I don't know if they're checking a block on or putting a star in there for veterans. That's a damn good idea, Roger. And I'll throw that out to Greer. I say, Greer, why don't you guys just put a little star designator like we do for the purple star for schools if you are a veteran legislator. I think that would be very helpful. Dave, help me on that. I think that would be fun.
Oh, yeah. We have, Greer knows who all the veterans are, but there are also politicians, state senators, and state reps that are in military-heavy districts that they're as knowledgeable of the veteran requirements as anybody. So they're always great to work with. It is a very military-friendly legislature and governor, and I think even though we have diminished number of veterans serving in politics these days, it's just a fact of life because we haven't had that many forces called to duty. But here in North Carolina, I think it's just because we have so many military retirees and veterans that we have a little bit higher advantage in that regard. If nothing else, they all know that for their political future in the state of North Carolina, they better be military friendly.
All right. Marie, you got a slide up there that's not mine, but it looks like that's our next. I think that's MLK Day, isn't it? The 18th?
It is. It is indeed. Well, thank you, Kirk, very much for this presentation explaining what the commission is doing and helps us get oriented. So we're going to take just a couple more minutes because this is the first meeting for many people here, and just to share what's coming up and how we'll continue as a club here. David Hayden is going to be our presenter next time, talking about the Veterans Life Center in Butner on January 18th. Then our next meeting is, we're not going to have a speaker for the next meeting. We'll take some time to figure out what does this club want to do. Roger called me earlier today and said, well, I've got some ideas. Who do I share it with? So this will be an opportunity to say, okay, I think this club could address these issues, or here are our initial thoughts. So that's what we'll do on February 1st. And then KWarner's coming back again on the 15th, talking about his book. If you have other suggestions for speakers or anything else, quite frankly, please put it in chat, or you can email it to veteransissuesrotary@gmail.com or to me. I've only got 7 email addresses. You can probably find me. Also for Terry Snow, who we've not met yet, and the others that are not Rotarians in other clubs, would you please put in chat your email address so I can make sure that you're on our distribution list. We had a meeting in the higher levels of Rotary today at the zone level, talking about a new initiative that may impact some people in this group. It's called Rotary Works. It's to help people who have lost their job or who are in career transition. It's for Rotarians and their partners, and it will be online. And because some of the webinars are going to be recorded, that will be available to everyone. So if you're interested, this is just getting started. The first real meeting is on January 13th, Wednesday, from 1 to 2 o'clock on Eastern time zone. And you can find more information at rotary.works. You don't need to put W's in front of it or .com. It's just rotary.works. It's going to get you to the website. So we'll hear more about this as this fleshes out as well. And then we will talk in February about what are the leaders that we need for this club to make this club a reality and a strong club, and what are some ways that you could serve to move this club forward. So we'll discuss this again in February. And that is all I'm going to say at the moment. Rotary tradition is to end with a four-way test, which is my next slide. But does anybody have any questions or comments at the moment?
I know we got a lot more veterans out there in the district, so if you